Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Taurus on the Saturday the 4th of November at 5:22 AM Universal Time. This particular full moon involves the sun over in Scorpio and the moon in Taurus, and it's both a time of reflection and it's also a time to think back to 26th of April when we had the new moon in Taurus, and it says how the intentions we set back then have reached their full manifestation right now with the full moon in Taurus. It's also time to look at how well we achieve the balance between Scorpio and Taurus. We all have these energies within us, and the two energies, whilst they're opposing to one another, they also complement each other. Both sides balance each other out, and by bringing the two sides together we achieve a healthy expression of both of them, so we don't become too shallow and materialistic. Equally, we don't become so obsessed with the deep underbelly of things that we forget to enjoy the basic pleasures of life. So we've got the sun in Scorpio, so this has been all about doing that internal shadow work of making the unconscious conscious, and also becoming aware of where we're holding on to stuff from the past or old wounds that we need to let go of them in order to move out of the individual consciousness symbolised by the ego and start moving towards a more transpersonal consciousness, so we're open to the collective. We understand, or start moving towards an understanding of how we're linked into the greater whole, and our actions are not isolated, they have a result or effect on everything around us. So Scorpio is that deep inward journey. It's going to the core of who we are. So it's not being satisfied with just the surface level reality. It wants to probe to the core of any given issue, to the bare essence of something, to strip away the form, to reveal the essence underneath it. So during this time we may find ourselves doing a lot of looking at ourselves, or we may be experiencing our shadow being triggered by other people. So this is a time where interactions with other people can be very revealing, both about the other person but also about ourselves, and how open we are to transformation, or how willing we are to face our own shadow, because it can be painful work. If there's parts of ourselves that we're not particularly proud of, that we don't like, and other people remind us of this, then of course it's going to trigger an emotional reaction with us. But the key thing here is, do we have the awareness, or are we prepared to embrace the awareness of questioning the event that triggered us, or what a person has said that may have caused an emotional reaction, and to establish, is that person doing us a favour by showing us a part of our shadow self that we may not have been aware of, because it doesn't get triggered without other people being involved? And if that is true, then we need to accept that side of ourselves, to embrace it. If we reject it, all we do is drive it further down into the unconscious, where it just becomes more powerful, not less powerful. Ignoring a situation doesn't make it go away, or doesn't make it weaker. If anything, it gets stronger, and it requires more effort in the long run to deal with it if we just put it off. So this is a time where we may start to proactively do the inner journey of revealing the contents of our unconscious, and to heal the wounded parts of ourselves, so that we no longer get triggered by the environment. So this is what the sun is doing, but as I said before, it can go into overdrive. It can become an almost obsessive need to look into the darkness, or a need to engage in power plays, or to try and control our environment around us, because we don't want to face the truth about ourselves. So we end up showing the shadow side of Scorpio, which is power plays, which is emotionally lashing out based on old conditioning, because we're not prepared to remove those triggers from within us. Now the moon in Taurus, she brings about a balancing focus to this. So she's the other luminary of astrology. She's the emotional side to ourselves, our internal nature. And with the moon in Taurus, this is a time to remember to relax, to slow down, to potentially spend more time in nature, and to become more grounded again. So one of the best ways to be grounded is to be in touch with our physical body. The physical body is obviously the outer manifestation of who we are, but we need to remember to enjoy life as well. Transformation and shadow work is very important. We need to undergo it in order to empower ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we have to let go of pleasure as well. It doesn't mean that we have to deny ourselves pleasures, simple things in life. It doesn't mean that we can't enjoy the fruits of our labours. It just means that we don't become attached to these. But the moon in Taurus is reminding us that, yes, go ahead and do the transformation, but don't forget to enjoy life. Don't forget to remain in touch with your body, because with Scorpio, if we overdo it, we can end up disassociating from our physical form. And Taurus reminds us to be grounded in the body, because the body, when we're truly connected to it, we're in the present moment. And the present moment is the point where all true transformation takes place. We can't transform the past by thinking about the past obsessively. We can't transform the future, which hasn't even happened yet. We can only elicit a transformation in the present moment, because that's where all true change takes place. And Taurus reminds us that by connecting to the body, connecting to our physical senses, especially senses like touch and smell, which are very much, we can only sense these in the present moment. There's no real delay in the processing of those senses. So embracing physical touch or getting in touch with our body again can prevent us from disassociating from bodies and getting stuck in the mind, getting stuck in those old emotions. By taking that deep breath to slow down, to reconnect with the body and connect with the inner nature of the body as well, we can become grounded, and we achieve the state of presence where we can observe whatever fear or pain Scorpio is revealing within us. And by being present with it and observing it without being attached to it, without judging it, true transformation can take place. It's through the act of observing it without being attached to it that releases those old emotions, those old energies. There will always be a shadow side to us. You can't destroy the darkness without it. When you look at the stars at night, we wouldn't see the stars if we didn't have the blackness of the night around it. So we need the dark. We need to appreciate the darkness in terms of its job of showing us, or giving the light definition. If there was no darkness, we'd have no sense of depth, we'd have no sense of perception, wouldn't be able to see or appreciate the light to begin with, because if you don't have the opposite of something, you can't truly appreciate it. So if we take the time to understand our shadow self and appreciate it, we appreciate the light side of ourselves that much more. If we try and deny it and try and bury that darkness, it will just come back in other ways. It may not come back the way it has so far, but something else is going to trigger it. It's not whatever's buried in our subconscious isn't meant to be buried there forever. At some point, any stuff in our subconscious that needs to be expelled will come to the surface, and this is a time of year when this tends to happen. Now, the full moon in Taurus does have a few key aspects to it. The ruler of the full moon, Venus, she's not in direct aspect, but she is in her home sign of Libra. So she brings an emphasis on relationships, connecting with other people, socialising, and creating relationships with people through building connection. Venus is all about connection rather than separating things. She helps to see how things are interconnected rather than seeing things as isolated structures. And Venus helps us to feel that sense of love, connection with other people, through building rapport, building bonds with those people, and using that sense of social grace to connect with other people. So Venus in Libra, she's also in a home sign here, so she'll be particularly strong at this point. Now, there's two major planets that are connected by aspect to this full moon, are Pluto in Capricorn and Neptune retrograde in Pisces. Now, Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, which is the sun the sign is in, so we're in a very Plutonic kind of time right now, where it may feel like things are polarising to show us the positive extreme and the negative extreme within us. so that we can then perform the alchemy of expelling the old dross in order to transform the ego. So we're facing the old attachments, the old negative emotions and jealousies, which aren't based on present situations, they're based on stuff that we haven't let go of from the past. Pluto polarizes in order to see the two poles of things, and then we have to choose. Do we choose the positive, empowered and loving side of the polarity, or do we choose the negative, egotistic, angry, bitter, resentful side and cling to that at the expense of our own well-being? Pluto's also in Capricorn, so for the past, since 2008 he's been there, and we've seen a lot of things that we used to take for granted or thought were bastions of society breaking down as the shadow side of each thing ruled by Capricorn is being exposed. And in our own personal lives, this may well be where we're having our integrity called into question, where we're seeing that the person that we show other people is not the real us. We're all taught to wear a mask because society wants to pigeonhole people into different roles and things. We're all much more complicated than that. We're not the roles that we play in society. We're not the jobs that we have. For each and every one of us, there's a specific niche that is true to who we are. And for Capricorn, this is all about the integrity, where the public persona is a mirror of the internal nature. So there's no split, there's no mask where we pretend to be something that we're not. Who we are and what people see in us is what you get. What you see is what you get. So Pluto, during this transit of Capricorn, is challenging us to become authentic, to drop the public masks that we wear based on specific roles that we've been assigned to, and really question who are we really and what legacy do we really want to leave. Do we want to leave a legacy where we stayed in the same job our entire lives and didn't do what felt right for our soul? Or do we take the courage to take the actions aligned with that feeling of soul purpose that every single one of us has? We still have to deal with the practical day to day, so I'm not advocating just upping and leaving something without warning. We still have to take responsibility for where we are right now, but Pluto in Capricorn has been challenging every single one of us to question our integrity, to look at the dreams that we're pursuing and ask ourselves, are these really our dreams? And sometimes this requires us to have the courage to let go of something that we may have worked on for years but was never actually true to who we are. We just did it because we thought it was the right thing to do, but it's not actually who we are. And if we can do this, then by being true to who we are, we can then show other people our authentic self. Because if we're just going around in life wearing masks and pretend to be something that we're not, then how can anyone truly love us properly because they don't know who we are? So Pluto in Capricorn has been challenging every single one of us to look at ourselves, look at the legacy that we're building for ourselves, and ask us, is this the legacy we actually want to build? Is this the sense of self, or the version of ourselves that is true to who we are, that the world sees? And if not, what do we need to do to get in touch with the core of who we are and transform parts of ourselves that aren't aligned with who we are, so that whatever is no longer required is shed, which is Pluto's job, is polarizing and shedding the shadow or the negative aspects of things, and becoming truthful and honest with who we are and what we're doing. And as I said, we also have Neptune in Pisces. This is trine to the Sun and sextile the Moon. Neptune entered Pisces in 2012, and ever since then we've felt a massive influx of spiritual energy, as Pisces is the energy of pure spirit and Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, so he's in his home sign. This energy is massively ramped up at the moment. Neptune in Pisces brings spiritual renewal. It's the dissolving of all the old structures in life, dissolving the barriers and the illusions of separation that separate every single one of us that society seems to want to maintain, and to help us open our hearts up and open our minds up to spiritual love. Just learning to dissolve the ego It's not a case of destroy the ego, because we need the ego in order to interact with the world around us. It has its function, it's not a mistake, but we have to use the dissolving energy of Neptune to release any old patterns like addictions, codependency, ways that we try to escape reality, or where we rely on another person for strength rather than developing spiritual strength within us. And it's also learning to connect with our psychic sensitivities, and whatever message it's delivering, to honour it, as long as we know it's coming from truth. So we do need to be discerning. We need to use discernment to separate truth from illusion, but at the same time, whatever intuition that we get, whatever psychic sensitivities is telling, or psychic senses are telling us about a situation, whether something feels off, we need to listen to it carefully and question it. It doesn't mean that we relinquish logic. Logic is important as well, but we need to take serious heed of what our intuition is telling us, and then using logic, trying to figure out how do we use this intuition to take the next step in life, rather than just ignoring it and getting that sensation even worse. So it's also a time where, because intuition is quite a quiet voice in the mind, it's not as loud as the ego. It does require that we become grounded. So the full moon does help with this as such, because it is about becoming grounded and present in our lives and enjoying the present moment. And by slowing down like this, we have an opportunity to open our minds, become more aware of the big picture around us, become more aware of the energetic interactions going on around us, and to strengthen that, develop greater inner strength, spiritually speaking, so that the events around us do not impact how we feel. They do not control or elicit strong reactions. We can feel grounded, can feel immune to this psychic intrusions of all the energies around us, and we can radiate universal love, universal compassion, and universal empathy around us. Because Pisces is all about the dissolving of boundaries and opening up to that oneness that unites us all. There is that sense of oneness between us that is possible, but it requires the shedding of the barriers of the ego, which the work of Scorpio at the moment is helping us do. With Jupiter being loosely conjunct with the Sun still, we may well feel that we're being asked to break down the boundaries of the ego so that we can open up to higher power. Because the highest levels of Scorpio is surrender, and this isn't surrender to another person, it's surrender to the mysteries of the universe, the higher power that underlies everything and is actually at the core of who we are. But we often forget that it's there because we've been conditioned to put layer upon layer of illusion over us. This is a time where we need to shed these illusions, to relinquish. These illusions may well have been cherished for a long time, but if they're not who we are, we need to have the courage to let go of them. So lastly, we have Ceres, who, if you're not aware of Ceres, she's a goddess asteroid orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, and she represents the principle of nurturing, of motherhood, and also the learning to let go of things. So she nurtures, but she's also, like Scorpio, she deals with letting go. Ceres has a strong link to Taurus and Scorpio as a result of the fact she deals with both growth and death. The nurturing of the young things, and then detaching from the creations rather than just clinging to them. With Ceres in Leo, we're talking about nurturing of our creativity, nurturing self-expression, but because this is in a square to the Sun and Moon, so this may well highlight where there's an imbalance, or where we struggled with this sense of nurturing, where for whatever reason we may struggle to nurture that sense of self-expression within us. And this may be a time where we need to look at how we express ourselves, look at our relationship with creativity, also look at the giving and receiving of love. Because if we do not believe that we're worthy of love, we won't be able to receive the love and nurturing that other people may want to give to us, but we reject it because we don't feel worthy of it. This is also Ceres, as well as being square to both the sun and moon, is also in conjunction, forms a yod, which is a finger of God formation with Neptune and Pluto. So Neptune and Pluto both challenging us to transform the nurturing impulse within us and to raise it to a higher level of being. So if we are in a position where for whatever reason we're not comfortable receiving love, or we don't have the confidence to express ourselves or to nurture our own creative ability and the creative talents of other people, Neptune and Pluto challenge us to question why we have these issues. Pluto takes us down to the root chakra and shows whatever fears we may have buried there, which is often linked to survival. Neptune is linked to the crown chakra and deals with where earthly attachments and addictions block our connection with a higher power, and Neptune's dissolving energy can help us open the crown chakra if we consciously connect with him through meditation and allow that divine energy to flow through us, which can then go down to the root chakra where Pluto is breaking down these fears and highlighting them to us, and then we can transform ourselves so that we open the heart, which is Leo, where Ceres is right now, so that we can open ourselves up to love. We can have the courage to be our authentic selves and to show our creative abilities and our creative self-expression. And as well as doing this, it's also about nurturing other people's expressions. It doesn't mean that we become busybodies, doesn't we become nosy Parkers, but if people in our lives who've known us and trust us are having difficulties with nurturing, or we're having issues with this challenges us to provide the right kind of nurturing where we encourage the person to express themselves or to connect or learn to love themselves, because if we don't know how to love ourselves, we cannot love another person. So Ceres in Leo challenges us to love ourselves, because if we can nurture ourselves and nurture our own self-expression, we can then nurture another person's. So there's a lot to take in, and I appreciate that. But this particular full moon is a very powerful opportunity to transform our sense of identity, to releasing the past, releasing all the old attachments that we've kept for however many years, and to realise that we have the opportunity to be free of them, to relinquish old attachments, and to become grounded in the present moment where all true power resides. If we use the body to become grounded in the present moment, then we can truly connect with our power, and we can transform our lives for the better and break free of all the old negative patterns that stand in the way of unconditional love for ourselves and for others. So I hope that's a useful guide for the full moon in Taurus. May it be much illumination, much release, and much transformation for you in a way that will take you close to unconditional love for yourself and for other people, where I feel empowered to take charge of our lives, be grounded, and look towards us, release the past, so that when we're moving into Sagittarius later on, we're ready to look forward to the future with optimism rather than to the past with pessimism. So I hope that's a useful guide. Take care, and may you have many blessings from the full moon in Taurus.